Communication just in general is really crucial. What would motivate them to help you? You have to find that out. It's almost like in some cases being a detective. You have to ask the right questions. I always try to engage in the conversations and learn what I can from not just about them, but about what they know. You know, the old saying, time is money, really applies when you own your own business. I'm like 50 times faster at doing outreach than I used to be. Just because I don't have to sit there and think about, you hit a button and it writes it out for you. I've almost become addicted to it. I'm getting higher response rate.
You got to get on the train or it's going to leave you at the station. Reminds me of early on in the AI boom. AI is not going to replace your job, but someone using AI will.
You're just managing the AI properly to do everything that you want it to do.
Do you think that something like this would be easy to integrate with your current system?
You want me to give away my trade secrets to the competition, huh? The thing that I found useful is
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Simple Tech Talk, where we explore AI's impact across various industries. I'm your host, Johnny Palumbo, and today I'm thrilled to announce Brian Dineen, a distinguished expert in alternative and equipment financing. As the founder of Trinity Capital Partners, Brian brings decades of experience helping businesses navigate financing challenges, from working capital solutions to complex asset-based lending structures. His dedication to finding creative solutions and his recent foray into AI-enhanced client outreach are reshaping lending practices. Brian, welcome to the show.
glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. Could you start off by sharing a bit about your journey into the world of business financing and the innovative approaches you're spearheading at Trinity?
Yeah, it's probably a fairly typical story for an entrepreneur. I got into this industry somewhat by accident. I was transitioning out of another industry, which I basically had to leave because I worked for a company that filed bankruptcy, and mentioned in a group meeting. I was part of a networking group here in town in Milwaukee, and mentioned that I was looking for a new opportunity. And one of the associates that was part of the group came up to me and said, I'm working with this company called Bellwether Capital Group. We do commercial lending and financing of businesses, and I think you'd be really good at it. Why don't you come in and talk to us? And I said, okay, why not? I'm not
Right.
working currently, so I might as well. And I went in and interviewed with them. And after a few interviews, they offered me a position. And so that's how I got into the industry. And we were doing primarily commercial real estate mortgages, but also as I came across more complicated deals that required something other than a straight building mortgage, I found that I was more interested in working on those rather than just a straight commercial mortgage. So I branched out with one of my colleagues, and we started our own firm and really started getting into more asset-based lending and working capital loans and equipment financing situations. And as things moved along, he kind of went in one direction, I went in another, amicably. He was focused in a different area than I was. So we split, and I was on my own for just a little while. And I got a call from one of my lending sources, and he informed me that he was in great need of a finance expert and a business development person. And he wanted to talk to me about it. So I said, okay, okay. I'm happy being on my own, but sure, I'll listen. He's been a good lender for me. Did a few deals with him and liked him. And I thought, well, yeah, I'll talk to him. So I started talking to him on Tuesday of one week. I was working for him by Monday of the next week.
Wow.
So we put it together fairly quickly. So I went to work for him for 4.5, 5 years, worked out really well, focused strictly on equipment financing at that point, because that's what he did. And, we worked well together. I had a great time there. I did very well, but the company was family owned, and second generation, and they started to get into a fight. Lawsuits started flying and so forth. And so, I went into his office and said, it's time for me to leave. I don't need to be, in the midst of all this. And he understood perfectly well. We've continued to be in touch and do business together since then. That was about 5 years ago. And since then, I've been on my own with Trinity Capital Partners and working with small businesses in the lower middle market.
That's awesome, Brian. I find it fascinating that your entry into business financing was almost serendipitous. Uh,
Yeah.
a sort of right place, right time scenario. It's clear that networking played a pivotal role in opening this new path for you. Transitioning from an entirely different industry, like we talked about yesterday, into commercial lending must have involved a steep learning curve. What were some of the biggest challenges you faced early on, and how did those experiences shape your approach to founding Trinity Capital Partners?
Interestingly enough, my friend was correct. I am pretty well suited for it. I'm good with numbers. I'm pretty quick to, be able to read a financial situation. So the learning curve wasn't necessarily as steep as it could have been, I guess. But one of the biggest challenges that I came across was really how to communicate with the borrowers properly. I came from an entirely different industry where you didn't really have to soft sell, I guess.
All right,
You just kind of went right at it. You could be very direct and not worry about hurting feelings or
all right,
stepping on toes, as it were. And in the lending industry, particularly the alternative lending industry, you're sometimes dealing with some people who are in a bit of a crunch. And so you have to keep that in mind when you're talking to them. You still need to get your points across and communicate effectively on what you can do, what they need to do to help you help them, and so forth. But you have to do it in a little bit different manner. And that was something that I initially struggled with. I think I've got it down now, but that was a big challenge. So it became one of the biggest reasons I was confident that I could go out on my own. Because once I learned how to do that effectively, I thought, well, that's the key to this. You have to know how to communicate effectively with these borrowers and make them feel at ease and confident in you that you can help them get done what they need to get done because it's usually very critical to these folks. They're all business owners like you and I. And so what I'm trying to do for them is extremely important to them. And it's very crucial that you make them feel comfortable that they're in good hands. Okay, this is the right guy to help me out here. He's going to get me what I need so I can move my business forward. So that to me is really the crux of our industry. If you can do that effectively, you can be successful.
that's a great insight to have. I can really see how adjusting your communication style to your new industry would be crucial in lending, especially when you're dealing with small businesses that tend to need a supportive approach. That kind of adaptability really stands out to me. It's one thing to be proficient with numbers, but knowing how to soft sell must add a valuable layer to building client relationships. Since you started Trinity, how have you worked to refine this communication style and connecting with borrowers effectively? Has this approach impacted the growth of your client base in any significant way?
Yeah, it surely has. And I think the other thing that it's taught me is, communication just in general is really crucial because I work with referral resources, bankers and some financial advisors and accountants and things like that. Again, there's a different pitch, if you will, that goes with talking to those people. It's not only how I can help you, but how I can help your clients. I'll help you solidify your relationship with that client by helping them and out of a tight situation. So I really kind of rounded out my communication skills through starting with learning how to deal with borrowers that are a little bit under duress to okay, now can I pivot that and talk to people that can help me build my business. And again, it's adjusting how you communicate and the way that you speak to them. And I think the key to that is knowing what is their motivation. What would motivate them to help you? And you have to find that out. So it's almost like in some cases being a detective, right? You have to ask the right questions and to get the answers you need to be able to figure out, okay, here's how I can help you help your customers and maybe help you grow your customer base while I'm growing mine. So it sort of just branched out from there. It was one specific thing that I got caught up in that I had to figure out, but then it led me to being able to figure out other ways to expand those communication efforts. And
It's
that's what really helped me grow the business. I mean, that's where it all came from.
that's great. It's really cool to see how you've tailored your approach to gather these referral resources, helping focus on clients to strengthen those relationships. It's a smart strategy that clearly builds trust and opens doors for you. When it comes to growing Trinity and refining these approaches, were there any mentors or resources that helped shape your perspective, or any guiding advice that you found particularly valuable as you built your business?
I've always preferred rather than being a bookworm to learn, and reading. I do read some business articles and business books, but I'm not a nerd about it by any stretch. I've always preferred, learning from people. I think that's the best way to learn, at least for me it is. So I don't know that I had any specific mentors that I could point to, but whenever I was talking with someone in the business or in a related business, or even a potential referral resource, or even borrowers, customers, I always was on alert for things that I could take away that I hadn't used before, hadn't thought of before, or didn't know about before. So again, the key to that is any part of your conversation, ask some questions. Be interested in what that person has to offer because they've been doing whatever they do for a long period of time or for some time. Surely they've learned things, and maybe they learned things that you haven't learned yet, or they can help you uncover some things. This is where I really found it useful is they do things a certain way, or when it comes to marketing or managing their finances or whatever it is, and you find out about it and you say, that's a really good idea. I never thought of that before. So I always try to engage in the conversations and learn what I can from not just about them, but about what they know. And that's always been my preferred way of gathering information. And so I'm pretty consistent at trying to do that.
There you go. It seems like learning from people really seems to work for you and has clearly had an impact on your business. Now, shifting a little bit towards AI, I'd love to hear your thoughts on AI's role in your industry. With everything AI can automate and streamline, where do you see it bringing the most value to your work at Trinity?
Today, because it's probably going to be different tomorrow. That's changing so quickly. But really, where I see it bringing value is in efficiency. It just allows you to do certain tasks much more quickly and efficiently, and you can turn to other things. For an old guy like me who's not really technologically adept, if you can learn a technology that's easy to use, which I think AI is, and learn it quickly and apply it to daily tasks, particularly for a business owner that has to juggle a lot of different responsibilities, right? I run the business and I have very little help doing that. It's just me. So there's a lot of different things I have to do. And anything that makes me more efficient at running through those tasks and getting on to the next one is extremely valuable because it's a time saver. And, the old saying, time is money, really applies when you own your own business. That's your biggest, at least for me, with a company that's doing a financial service, I have no assets per se, right? Cash in the bank and an office desk and a couple of other minor things. My biggest asset is my time. And
Hmm.
so the more wisely I can use that time and the more efficiently I can use it, the more profitably I can use it, that's just going to make my business better. And that's what I find AI is doing for me.
That's great. Very interesting points on efficiency. From what we've seen, AI's user friendliness is a really big draw to a lot of people, especially the older crowd like you, especially for those not steeped in tech. You mentioned running Trinity largely on your own. Are there any specific tools or processes you found particularly helpful in handling everything? Anything that's surprised you in terms of how much time it saved?
Yeah, well, I think the whole thing was a surprise. I went into it a little bit tentatively, thinking, well, my thought process was, well, this is the way things are going, so you better get on the train, or, you're going to be stuck at the station. I was surprised at how easy some of it was to learn, and to use. And what I've basically been using it for are, kind of administrative tasks. So taking notes at meetings like this, because I can barely read my own handwriting anymore. So it's come in handy for that, and you can continually go back to it if you need to make sure you're using all of the information that was in that particular meeting. And also, it's been really useful for just writing outreach messages. I'm like 50 times faster at doing outreach than I used to be, just because I don't have to sit there and think about, well, should I phrase it this way? Should I phrase it that way? You type in maybe a subject line. Okay, here's
Hmm.
what I want to do. Boom. You hit a button and it writes it out for you, and then you send it off. It's great. I've almost become addicted to it because I enjoy it so much. It's just so much. I was thinking about this earlier today because I knew I was going to talk to you. And when I do outreach, say on LinkedIn,
Hmm.
I bet I used to maybe get 15 out in an hour, and now I can do that in 10 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah, it's just, it is just amazing how much faster it's made me at that sort of thing. And believe it or not, I think maybe because there's no overthinking involved in the writing, you just hit a button and the AI spits it out. I'm finding that I'm becoming a little more, I'm getting higher response rate. I don't know if that speaks to my writing skills, but it's just it's been tremendous. So, I will continue to use it. I will continue to use it for note taking, and that's where I'm starting. But I'm sure at some point in time I'm going to expand my use of it for other areas of the business.
That's great to hear. 50 times faster outreach is huge, especially with you doing everything solo. You
It,
mentioned you got to get on the train or it's going to leave you at the station. Reminds me of early on in the AI boom, there was a quote by the famous economist Richard Baldwin. AI is not going to replace your job, but someone using AI will, you know? It
yeah.
sounds like note-taking AI is also a big help. You mentioned embracing AI more out of necessity. Has that shifted at all? Are there any areas of your business where you're starting to see new AI opportunities that you hadn't initially considered?
Yes, definitely. One that I see is, um, so when we take in a new deal, we have them fill out an application. And the application is pretty standard across the industry. You know, name, address, name of the business, basic things, social security number, yada, yada, yada. What I eventually see happening is they're going to have AI is going to generate an interactive application for lending. And it's going to save us if we do it correctly. And I'm assuming that it's going to be done correctly based on the people that are working on it and what I've seen so far. If we do it correctly, it's going to save us a ton of time because essentially what happens after you take that initial application is you look through the request, you look through what's been submitted, and then you call the borrower. And basically, it's an interview. Okay, here's what I want to ask about. How long have you had the business? Whatever I start asking, what's the equipment for? How will it help your business, et cetera, et cetera. I can see AI eventually taking my place in that and giving me an application with a summary of the salient points that I want to know about that borrower and the borrower's business so that I can profile it properly for the lender. And in fact, it may even get to the point where the AI will do that as well. So I definitely see possibilities here. I think we're a little ways away, but I see it coming. I see it coming that way, and it's just gonna, you can be a solo operator in this business and do a tremendous amount of volume by yourself if it gets to that point. That's going to be a sea change in our industry. I don't know, what the ultimate effects are going to be. That's a little hard to predict, but I can see, it becoming that sort of thing where AI is taken over, a lot of, and basically you're managing an AI company, right?
Right.
Rather than a finance company. You're just managing the AI properly to do everything that, automated that you want it to do. So that's where I see it going.
You're right. I mean, an AI-driven loan application would really be a game changer, especially with the added benefit of automating all those initial interviews. You mentioned just picking out what parts of your brain that you would pick out. It would be really cool to see AI take on some of those features. Do you think that something like this would be easy to integrate with your current systems, or would it require a shift in how you approach client onboarding?
Yeah, that's the part that I'm still unsure about. Yes, eventually I think so. How that would look, I'm not sure at this point. I'm going to baby steps, as it were. I'm going to start with what I'm doing now and kind of slowly get more into it, and hopefully that will educate me enough. And as new AI technology comes out and I learn about that, I'll figure out, how to integrate it with the other systems I have, like accounting, QuickBooks and things like that. But right now, how's that going to work? Nah, I'm not sure. Again, that's a little difficult to predict. It's probably going to have a massive effect on the banking industry, I would think, at some point. I mean, you're probably going to have, if you go to their trading desks and so forth, AI traders. They'll have an automated system doing all of their stock and treasury trading and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I mean, that's going to be a huge shift. I think that's one area where it will really have a large effect. And where that goes in terms of how it changes the structure of the banking industry, I think it'll change the structure of the banking industry. Exactly how that's going to look. Again, I'm not. My crystal ball broke years ago, so I I can't really say how that's going to look in 10 years. But it's definitely coming, and I think the key is you just have to stay on top of it, stay in it, and make the adjustments as the changes come as best you can, and try to keep up with it. And then, in 10 years, we'll all look back and go, oh yeah, that was a wild ride, but it all worked out pretty well. So, yeah, but I definitely see banking being changed. I think even if you look to the equipment industry, because of the advancements in AI and the ability to tie it into other systems, I think it's going to change the way equipment is sold to, the end users, the construction companies, the manufacturers, the utility contractors and places like that that buy heavy equipment. I think that the dealerships are going to change the way that they market to those customers. And I think they're going to incorporate finance offerings into that. They do that now to a certain extent, but I think it's going to be more integrated, and that's going to really change how those dealers sell to their customers. I think the whole sales process for equipment dealers is going to be completely overhauled.
That's an interesting insight. And as we are wrapping this up in the next few minutes, I'd like to bring it back for a few questions within your industry, particularly back to the lending. I appreciate your insight because predicting the full impact is clearly going to be tough, but you can see that AI is set to revolutionize industries like banking, and you can tell how it's going to affect trading as well. Back to lending for entrepreneurs in your space looking to gain an edge, what advice would you offer getting started with AI in industries like finance or equipment lending? And are there any tools or strategies that you'd particularly recommend to start streamlining or enhancing their operations?
Well, you want me to give away my trade secrets to the competition, huh? Uh, no, I think that definitely outreach and marketing is the first place that AI can be used effectively within our industry, um, just to automate things and make everything so much. And there's already people doing it. It's changed already, and it will continue to change more because an independent operator like me, the more effectively I market, the better my business does, right? And so I see AI weighing in heavily. That's going to be the first area in our industry where it really changes the game. And then I think everything will flow out from there in terms of integrating it with the other aspects of our businesses. But I think if you can automate your marketing, make it, well, just look at that outreach example I gave you. Now imagine if you could increase the efficiency of your marketing efforts in everything you're doing with marketing through social media, through direct contact, through whatever your channels are. If you can make every one of those channels that much more efficient and effective, uh, it's you're going to have a completely different business on your hands, in a very, very short period of time, I would think. So that's really where I see it starting, and then I think it'll just go out from there. You're going to end up probably seeing AI doing your accounting for you at some point in time. But that might be a ways off. Well,
Hopefully not.
the CPAs out there just really, really got upset with me.
Well, we won't share this episode with them. But that's a great point about AI transforming marketing, especially for smaller operations like yourself, where efficient outreach can make or break your business. Because like you said,
Yeah.
your most valuable asset is your time. Now, a couple questions now left. You've been through quite a few cycles in finance. Do you see any parallels between this AI boom and past bubbles like the internet one? If so, are there any key lessons that you think we should keep in mind as AI continues to expand?
Yes. The biggest one that I see is just because you can automate things doesn't mean that you don't have to manage them. And I think when the internet boom initially came, there were a lot of mistakes made in just thinking that, oh, well, I'll do this online, I'll do all this online, and I can just kind of let it go, and I don't have to pay as close attention to it as I did before. Not true. You still have to monitor it. You still have to make adjustments to it, and you have to manage it. Yeah, you have to stay on top of it. And so I think that would be the cautionary tale that I would point to, as we move through advancements in AI is, yeah, it's terrific and it can do all the things we've talked about, but you still have to take responsibility for running it, for managing it. Um, because if you don't, trends are going to change. Your business may change in terms of volume and in terms of number of employees, whatever. You're going to have changes in your business, and you have to make adjustments to your systems and your management systems in particular. So you still need to pay attention to that. That's the biggest thing I see where maybe the pitfalls are going to be with AI, just assuming that not only can it take over tasks, but it can take over management. No, I don't think that's going to happen.
That is such an important point, Brian. I think it's easy to think of AI as something that runs on autopilot, but as you said, management and oversight are essential to keep things running smoothly. Now, as we wrap up, is there any final insider advice you'd like to share with our listeners, especially those exploring AI for their own businesses?
Yeah, well, the thing that I found useful is yes, you have to do a little research. You have to read about it to know a bit about what you're getting into. But really, the best way to learn is just to jump in. And you're going to make a couple of blunders initially, but so what? Those are mistakes you're never going to make again because you just learned what's going to happen if you make that mistake. Just just jump into it. Go in and get your feet wet and start doing it and learn as you go. And it can be actually pretty exciting at certain times. When I first got the hang of doing that LinkedIn outreach and figured out how much faster I was going, I was pumped. I thought this is going to be great. I can, expand my network and cultivate more relationships, whether those be with direct customers or referral resources or just businesses that I can cooperate with in another way. This is going to be awesome. You just got eventually you can't suffer from paralysis by analysis. Whether you think you know enough to get into it, doesn't matter. Just go.
Brian, thank you for sharing your journey and your insights with us today. From your chance re-entry into finance and mastering the art of adaptable communication and leveraging AI as a solo operator, it's clear you bring a unique mix of experience and forward-thinking strategies. Today's episode highlighted some valuable lessons: the importance of the human touch in AI, using tech to streamline tasks, and applying past industry lessons to this new era of AI. Thanks for joining us, Brian. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it,
Brian,
Johnny.
before we go, what's the best way for our listeners to reach out to you? And do you have any special offers for them to check out?
They can reach me via email at Brian with an I at Trinity TRINITY C as in Charlie, P as in Paul, LLC.com, or call me directly 414-588-5113. Any inquiries are welcome, even if you're not sure what your business may need. That's okay. You can give me a call.
Well, thanks a ton for the resources, Brian. Thanks a ton, everyone, for listening in. Everyone, have a nice day.